from my position, I kind of see things as having kind of cause and effect all the way through my life. So I'm trying to write it from the point of view of that. There's little bits that I go off on side things that are more about things that I'm just kind of, that I was interested, or that my life was revolving around at those times. Like there's the bit I'm in at the moment, I'm writing a lot about being in bands, and I'm cannibalizing work I've written in the past and going back over it because I didn't want to rewrite 25 years worth of stuff about being in bands. Sure. So I've gone back to stuff I'd written in the past and I'm reworking it and adding things into it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it kind of swerves off into that. But so the tone shifts at various times in it because it's dealing with what was important to me at those times. So for people reading it, they're going to think, well, hang on a second, this has taken a left turn. Like there's a 20 or 30,000 word section about my experiences in online dating. And, it's just a complete swerve from where it was before. I haven't gotten there yet. No, that's not, that's still to be written. Well, it's kind of half written, but it's still to be folded into the longer part. So that's going to happen. And then there's going to be this whole section about my experiences in online atheism. It's almost as if there's sections that could be different books, but they are about what was the focus of my life at that time. Sure. And I have to kind of try and simplify it in a way for myself, because if I just tried to write everything, then it would be just horrifying. It would be tens of thousands of pages. It would just be awful, and it'd be unreadable garbage. So you have to kind of see where the narrative pushes.
There's the answer to your problem right there.
Release book one now and see how it lands, and then do the more recent.
That's something I've had to think about as well, because it's getting longer and longer. The rough version I've got at the moment has got about 120,000 words that are finished, and about another 60 or 70,000 words that just need working on. And that's only going to bring me up to about a decade ago. Wow. And a lot has happened in the last 10 years. So there's going to be a lot to write. So it's just up to 10 years ago, it's going to be at least 200,000 words.
Wow.
It's going to be, I think it's probably going to hit, I might manage to bring it in about 250,000 words. I might be able to.
Wow. I think your YouTube career alone would fill a book.
That's the thing that worries me, is that there's these things that have happened with that, because I don't want to just skim over stuff.
You can't
you're actually an influence for this pod. I loved Fundamentally Flawed, which was an excellent podcast.
I'm actually interviewing you about a book that you wrote because of that particular part of your life. So
this is the thing about it. It's the YouTube years made me known to a lot of people, and positively and negatively. A lot of people felt they had some kind of ownership of me, and that they had some right to tell me what to do or to how to think, or saying, oh, you should be still doing this, or you should still be doing that. Mm-hmm. Which is really tempting to do for anybody who's in, if you start to become a fan of somebody's work. And I'm aware that this is the same for musicians that I admire and writers that I admire. I'm kind of disappointed when they stop doing things that I like, or they kind of don't do it the way I want them to do it. But it's not my place to think that. It's up to them. And I suppose maybe that's another thing about the way the book's constructed, that it'll show that people's interests do change as they age and as new things happen to them. Suddenly something that seemed very important 5 years ago isn't. It's like, 5 years ago, I would sit at work listening to podcasts with G-Man, and, I check in the morning to see what G-Man said.
You're describing my life now.
This is it. And I would do it kind of obsessively.
Yes.
And I'd get kind of dragged into all the dramas about it and things like that. And then this week I saw a podcast. There's been a bit of drama with Scientist Sam and Dragnot and Steve McRae. Yeah, there's been this little bit of drama about that. And I've been watching that, and I'm just finding myself thinking, this doesn't matter. Why are people getting right? Why is anybody even thinking about, why is this hangout happening? This is so unimportant.
Absolutely.
You kind of want to grab people and go, seriously, just look at yourselves. This does not matter.
Right, absolutely.
But I'm aware that several years ago it mattered to me, so I can understand where they're coming from, but I can also understand it from the point of view being outside of it. But I suppose it's the same with any kind of hobby or obsession that people have. When you're knee deep in it, it seems like the most important thing in the world. Once you're no longer involved, you think, what was that about?
What I don't understand is the need to make a video about a particular person that no one else knows about or not many people do, and ultimately doesn't affect their life or anybody else's life. It's just a video to drone on about, like you said, meaningless shit that doesn't affect anybody's life and alters their existence in no way. How you could do that on a daily basis, I just don't get.
I think it becomes quite attractive, though, because you find yourself having this mouthpiece or this amplified soapbox, and you can right the wrongs you perceive as happening to you, and you've got this right to go, well, this person did this and that's not true because blah blah blah. It becomes, because people react to that, then you get the comments and then the videos coming back and stuff. It becomes this kind of really hyper magnified, dramatic, but from the point of view of being inside it, this dramatic life that's going on, and you're kind of thinking, oh, what's happening? It's like, you know that something like G-Man would be just thinking about it 24/7, really kind of mulling it over and really grinding on it in his mind, instead of going, hang on a second, this is such a tiny part of my life and it's so inconsequential, I'll just ignore it.
Good point.
Yeah, and I think this is what happens. I mean, I know I did that. I kind of became completely, obsessed, and there'd be periods where I'd be kind of up until very late in very long hangouts and stuff, or seeing what was going on. What's Brett Keane done? Oh, what's Rand Campbell done? Oh, what's G-Man done? It's like these people don't matter to anybody. And in the same way as I would say to something like G-Man, I don't matter to him. I'm nobody. So worrying about what I think or say is pointless. Nobody gives a shit. The man in the street doesn't give a shit.
Absolutely. But I mean, there's a big difference between, being able to realize that and someone like Brett Keane, who this is an actual existential part of them and their entire, the center of their world. You got to feel relief almost that you are able to get that close to the flame and not get burnt and get caught up into it. Like, you're able to break away from it and say, nope, that's enough. I'm done.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things that, you're saying get away without being burned by it. I'm still in a position where I will be accused of thinking things or saying things I've not said. Certainly, oddly enough, from people who used to sort of see themselves as being kind of allied to me, will often say, oh, he thinks this or he thinks that, or I've been accused of being I've been accused of being an apologist for Islam and things like that. And there's nowhere that I've actually said anything that indicates that I am. The most I've said is like, hang on a second, everybody, this is maybe a little bit more complicated than you're saying. Maybe that's a bit racist, and blah blah blah.
Wow.
But this is the thing. I no longer really have to actually have opinions about things, because a certain group of people have decided what my opinions are and stick to them.
That's insanity.
So it's just how it is. I mean, I don't know why it is. They think that my position on things has changed, and I don't think it has that much. I think that if anything, I've become more tolerant of other people. And certainly part of the reason why I don't have arguments with Christians about things anymore is because I just don't care.
Sure.
They're willing. Si can believe whatever he likes. He's not convincing anybody. Everybody now has the tools to deal with him. Big deal. We can figure about him. And so I feel like what I was doing back then is finished with. I've done it. I've done what I set out to do, and I don't need to do anything more. But there's I think maybe some people, and maybe it comes back to the whole notion of people wanting you to keep on doing what you were doing, that there's that sense of, maybe I've betrayed people by not continuing to be what they wanted me to be. And maybe they feel that I've changed because of that, because their expectation of me is different to the reality of me. But you can't stay kind of stuck in that.
Agreed.
That kind of rut. You can't keep yourself kind of like sealed in amber forever in a certain way. And this is something that comes out in the book, that it changes as my focus changes over the years. There's a reason why a big chunk of it's about being in bands. There's a reason why a big chunk of it's kind of about religion. There's a reason why a big chunk of it's about, a disproportionate chunk covers a space of about 2 years of internet dating. But that's what my focus was at the time. My life was shaped by those events at those times. For X amount of years, it was shaped by being in bands, and everything was around that. Then for that couple of years, it was shaped by my experiences of online dating and things like my jobs and stuff like that, though they were still happening, were very kind of minor parts of my narrative at that point. Then for a few years, they were shaped by YouTube and that kind of stuff. And people don't want you to change from those positions. It's like with the music thing, I still have people come to me and say, "Oh, I liked it when you used to do this," and it's like, that's 20 years ago. I don't do that anymore. I have no interest in doing that anymore. Or I wish you'd do stuff like that. Or I wish you'd still do songs that had tunes and stuff like this. But my interest is no longer in that position.
Right.
So, but I can understand how people feel let down, and especially if they've felt invested.
I don't see anything wrong with change. I think to evolve is a good thing. If you notice that the people that oftentimes are the ones that are perpetually caught up in drama are the ones that don't. They're the ones that are still in the same position that they were in 10 years ago.
Have you noticed since your time on YouTube, because back then it was a lot more focused on the religion aspect of the debate. Now it's moved into a social justice warrior, alt-right kind of...
Yeah, and it's really weird. I mean, I was looking at Beckles' G Plus feed the other day, and it's a mirror image of some of the stuff I see from right wingers. It's
really?
Well, not even a mirror image. It's just a like for like. The same things are being posted, and the same kind of stuff about liberals, and the same stuff about social justice warriors, and the same stuff about Islam, and the same stuff about this, that, and the other.
Interesting.
The way that those two sides have kind of intersected and found a common ground is kind of an interesting thing to look at. But
scary.
yeah. But it's kind of quite interesting how extremist thinking finds its level, and usually the level is the same as people who they were previously opposed to.
That's fascinating to think about.
Yeah, it's an interesting development. The same people who 5 years ago would have been saying, "How dare a baker not make a cake for a same-sex couple," are now saying, "Oh, it's great that this judge decided not to make a cake, told them that this baker didn't have to make a cake for a same-sex couple. I think the judge has done the right thing." It's this weird shift.
That is a good point.
The things that they were absolutely against a few years ago, they're I hate to use the word because it's become something that people use a lot. Their Overton window has moved to the point where they are almost exactly the same as the people they stood against a few years ago. And they've not realised it because it's been such a gradual drip, drip, drip of tiny little things that it's led to them becoming this without them realising it.
People are so weird.
They could say the same of me. I mean, it may well have that it's happened to me. That could be the case. I could have changed my position without realising it. Yeah. And because it's been a subtle drip, 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 and I've not noticed it. And I think we're all capable of having that happen to us. I have no solution to that. But
yeah, but Alex, are you using your reasoning and logic to come to that conclusion?
But how do I know that?
Last question. When can people expect to be able to buy this book?
So I've set myself the end of March as the deadline to finish the first draft of it, which is possibly quite optimistic. I mean, as we're a third of the way through February already, and I've got a lot to go through. But hopefully by the end of March, I'll have a version that has got the basic shape of it. Then my plan is to get a single copy of it printed for myself, get it printed A4, ring bound, so I can then go through it with a pen and change things and fix things. But what I'll do is I'll print it, then I will leave it for a month and not look at it. Then I'll come back and read it from cover to cover and make alterations then. Then once I'm happy with that, and I've made the edits, then at that point, it'll be the point where I start to decide whether I'm going to change names and how I'm going to approach it, and whether I think it's something that is worth trying to get published or not.
Yes, you have to publish this, Alex.
Yeah. It's one of these things. I mean, it'll one way or another, it'll be available for people to read, and that will probably be the end of the summer. If the earliest it will be the end of the summer, and that will be if no professional publishers are interested in it. Then it will be then, because then I'll get it self-published via one of the online websites, so people will be able to buy a book of it. So the earliest you're going to get it is maybe August, September. around June or July, I will be letting a small number of people have copies of it to get feedback on it before it goes to the next bit. So I'll make sure you get a copy of it by that point. So hopefully you'll have a completed copy. But I'll kind of give it to people under the strict instructions they don't share it with anybody else.
Sure.
And,
absolutely.
It's one of these things that I don't want it getting out before I'm ready.
Absolutely not. I mean, I don't want to get it out before you're ready either.
No, I'm not saying that you would do that. It's just, because I'm sure there's some people who just think, oh, can't wait to get this. I'm going to get all the dirt on him. Yeah, you will, but the dirt will be stuff that I will have had control over.
Yeah, you can't use it then. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's not dirt anymore.